everyone, I am Elma Oseba from Basic Mathematics 2nd year. I am going to discuss the child development theories, but before that, let's define what is child development. Child development focuses on explaining how children change and grow over the course of childhood. Such theories center on various aspects of development, including social, emotional, and cognitive growth. The child development theories are psychosocial development theory of Erikson, cognitive development theory of Jean Piaget, sociocultural theory of Lev Vygotsky, and social learning theory of Albert Bandura. Erikson was an ego psychologist who developed one of the most popular and influential theories of development. While his theory was impacted by the psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud's work, Erikson's theory centered on psychosocial development rather than psychosexual development. Psychosocial development theory is based on the 8 stages of development. Erikson's theory is based on the idea that development through life is a series of stages which are each defined by a crisis or challenge. The early stages provide the foundations for later stages, so Erikson says that if a child does not resolve a crisis in a particular stage, they will have problems in later stages. For example, if an adolescent does not establish their own identity, they will have difficulty in relationships as an adult. Stage 1. Trust versus mistrust. Birth 1 year or infancy. Basic conflict is trust versus mistrust. The important event is feeding, and the important relationship is with the mother. The infant must develop a loving, trusting relationship with the mother or caregiver through feeding, teething, and comforting. Failure to resolve this conflict can lead to sensory distortion and withdrawal. This stage is all about fulfilling needs. The baby needs to trust the world around them to take care of their needs. If they are hungry, they need to develop trust that they will be fed. If they are not fed or their diaper is left dirty, they may develop a mistrust in the outside world. This sense of trust or mistrust can affect us throughout the rest of our lives. Stage 2. Autonomy versus shame and doubt. Age 1 to 3 years old. Basic conflict is autonomy versus shame or doubt. The important event is toilet training, and the important relationship is with the parents. The child's energy is directed towards mastering physical skills such as walking, grasping, and muscular control. The child learns self-control but may develop shame, doubt, impulsivity, or compulsion if not handled well. The task is to achieve a degree of autonomy while minimizing shame and doubt. If mom and dad or caregiver permits the child, now a toddler, to explore and manipulate his or her environment, the child will develop a sense of autonomy or independence. The parents should not discourage the child, but neither should they push. A balance is required. If the parents come down hard on any attempt to explore and be independent, the child will soon give up with the belief that he or she cannot and should not act on his or her own. We should keep in mind that even something as innocent as laughing at the toddler's effort can lead to feel deeply ashamed and to doubt his or her abilities. Stage 3 is initiative versus guilt. Age 3 to 6 years old or preschool years. Basic conflict is initiative versus guilt. The important event is independence, and the important relationship is the family. The child continues to become more assertive in exploration, discovery, adventure, and play. The child may show too much force in this stage, causing feelings of guilt. Failure to resolve this conflict can lead to restlessness and inhibition. Here is the key word in a child's life: changes from no to why. In this stage, children want to understand the world, and they ask so many questions. If their initiative in questioning the world is encouraged, then they will feel uncomfortable with expressing their curiosity throughout the rest of their life. If we discourage them and tell them to shut up, then they feel guilty about their questioning. Stage 4. Industry versus inferiority. Age 6 to 12 years old or school age. The basic conflict in this stage is industry versus inferiority. The important event is school, and the important relationships are teachers, friends, and neighborhood. The child must learn to deal with new skills and develop a sense of achievement and accomplishment. Failure to do so can create a sense of inferiority, failure, and incompetence. For the first time, children are being formally evaluated. If a child raises their hand in classes and answers a question correctly, then he or she will feel industrious or competent. If he or she tries to answer a question but stutters to get out the wrong answer, the other students all start making fun of his or her speech impediment. Then the child will feel inferior. Stage 5. Identity versus role confusion. Age 12 to 20 years. The basic conflict is identity versus role confusion. The important event is development of pair relationships, and the important relationships are peers, groups, and social influences. The teenager must achieve a sense of identity in occupation, sex roles, politics, and religion. In addition, they must resolve this identity and direction. Failure to make these resolutions can lead to the repression of aspects of the individual for the sake of others, or fanatism. In adolescence, Erikson believed that a teenager's main social need is to discover his or her social identity. While searching for your identity, you may try out different roles, like trying to fit into various social groups, experimenting with drugs or sex, or just changing your wardrobe. You should be trying to find a stable sense of self now, or Erikson believed you may have identity crisis later. Stage 6: Intimacy versus Isolation. Age 20 to 40 years. The basic conflict in young adulthood is intimacy versus isolation. The important event is parenting, and the important relationships are lovers, friends, and work connections. In this stage, the individual must develop intimate relationships through work and social life. Failure to make such connections can lead to promiscuity, exclusivity, and isolation. Young adults are trying to balance their career efforts with the need to be in an intimate relationship with another person. Stage 7: Generativity versus Stagnation. Age 40 to 65 years. The basic conflict is generativity versus stagnation. The important event is parenting, and the important relationships are with children and the community. This stage is based on the idea that each adult must find a way to satisfy, support, and contribute to the next generation. It is often thought of as a giving back. Failure to resolve this stage can lead to overextension or rejectivity. Through generativity, we develop a sense of being a part of the bigger picture. Success leads to feelings of usefulness and accomplishment, while failure results in shallow involvement in the world. By failing to find a way to contribute, we become stagnant and feel unproductive. These individuals may feel disconnected or uninvolved with their community and with society as a whole. Success in this stage will lead to the virtue of care. Stage 8: Integrity versus Despair. Age 65 to death. The basic conflict is ego integrity versus despair. The important event is reflection on and acceptance of the individual's life. The individual is creating meaning and purpose of one's life and reflecting on life achievements. Failure to resolve this conflict can create feelings of disdain and despair. As we grow older and become senior citizens, we tend to slow down our productivity and explore life as a retired person. Erikson believed if we see our lives as unproductive, feel guilt about our past, or feel that we did not accomplish our life goals, we become dissatisfied with life and develop despair, often leading to depression and hopelessness. Success in this stage will lead to the virtue of wisdom. Wisdom enables a person to look back on their life with a sense of closure and completeness. The second stage of child development theories is cognitive development of Jean Piaget. Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development suggests that children move through 4 different stages of mental development. His theory focuses not only on understanding how children acquire knowledge, but also on understanding the nature of intelligence. The following are Piaget's stages of cognitive development. Stage 1 is sensory motor stage. The first stage corresponds from birth to infancy. This is the stage when a child who is initially reflexive in grasping, sucking, and reaching becomes more organized, his movement and activity. The term sensory motor focuses on the prominence of the senses and muscle movement through which the infant comes to learn about himself and the world. In working with children in the sensory motor stage, teachers should aim to provide a rich and stimulating environment with appropriate objects to play with. The ability that is attained in this stage is object permanence, wherein this is the ability of the child to know that an object still exists even without of sight. Stage 2, pre-operational stage. The pre-operational stage covers from 2 to 7 years old, roughly corresponding to the preschool years. Intelligence at this stage is intuitive in nature. At this stage, the child can now make mental representations and is able to pretend. The child is now even closer to the use of symbols. This stage is highlighted by the following. Symbolic function. This is the ability to represent objects and events. Symbolic function gradually develops in the period between 2 to 7 years. For example, Gina, a 2-year-old, may pretend that she is drinking from a glass which is really empty, though she already pretends the presence of water. the glass remains to be a glass. Egocentrism. This is the tendency of the child to only see his point of view and assume that everyone also has the same point of view. The child going to take the perspective of others. For example, a 5-year-old boy who buys a toy truck for his mother's birthday, or a 3-year-old girl who cannot understand why her cousins call her daddy, uncle, and not daddy. Centration. This refers to the tendency of the child to only focus on one aspect of a thing or event and exclude other aspects. For example, when a child is presented with two identical glasses with the same amount of water, the child would say they have the same amount of water. However, once water from one of the glasses is transferred to an obviously taller but narrower glass, the child might say that there is more water in the taller glass. The child only focused or centered only one aspect of the new glass, that it is a taller glass. The child was not able to perceive that the new glass is also narrower. The child only centered on the height of the glass and excluded the width in determining the amount of water in the glass. Irreversibility. Pre-operational children still have the inability to reverse their thinking. They can understand that 2 plus 3 is 5 but cannot understand that 5 minus 3 is 2. Animism. This is the tendency of children to attribute human-like traits or characteristics to inanimate objects. For example, when at night the child is asked where the sun is, she will reply that Mr. Sun is asleep. Constructive reasoning. This refers to the pre-operational child's type of reasoning, and that is neither inductive nor deductive. Reasoning appears to be from particular to particular. For example, if A causes B, then B causes A. Another example is, since her mommy comes home every day around 6 o'clock in the evening, when asked why it is already night, the child will say, because my mom is already home. Stage 3, concrete operational stage. This stage is characterized by the ability of the child to think logically but only in terms of concrete objects. This covers approximately the ages between 8 to 11 years, or the elementary school years. The concrete operational stage is marked by the following. Decentering. This refers to the ability of the child to perceive the different features of objects and situations. The child is no longer focused or limited to the one aspect or dimension. This allows the child to be more logical when dealing with concrete objects and situations. Reversibility. During the stage of concrete operations, the child can now follow that certain operations can be done in reverse. For example, they can already comprehend the commutative property of addition, and that subtraction is the reverse of addition. Conservation. This is the ability to know that certain properties of objects like numbers, mass, volume, or area do not change even if there is a change in appearance. Because of the development of the child's ability of decentering and also reversibility, the concrete operational child can now judge rightly that the amount of water in a taller but narrower container is still the same as when the water was in a shorter but wider glass. Creation. This refers to the ability to order or arrange things in a series based on one dimension, such as weight, volume, or size. Stage 4. Formal operational stage. In the final stage of formal operations, covering ages between 12 and 15 years old or high school years, thinking becomes more logical. They can now solve abstract problems and can hypothesize. This stage is characterized by the following. Hypothetical reasoning. This is the ability to come up with different hypotheses about a problem and to gather data in order to make a final decision or judgment. This can be done in the absence of concrete objects. The individuals can now deal with what-if questions. Analogical reasoning. This is the ability to perceive the relationship in one instance and then use that relationship to narrow down possible answers in another similar situation or problem. The individual in the formal operation stage can make an analogy. If United Kingdom is to Europe when Philippines is, the individual will reason that since the UK is found in the continent of Europe, then the Philippines is found in what continent? Then Asia is his answer. Through reflective thought and even in the absence of concrete objects, the individual can now understand relationships and do analogical reasoning. Deductive reasoning. This is the ability to think logically by applying a general rule to a particular instance or situation. For example, all countries near the North Pole have cold temperatures. Greenland is near the North Pole. Therefore, Greenland has cold temperature. From Piaget's findings and comprehensive theory, we can derive the following principles. Children will provide different explanations of reality at different stages of cognitive development. Cognitive development is facilitated by the providing activities or situations that engage learners and acquire adaptation. Learning materials and activities should involve the appropriate level of motor or mental operations for a child of given age. Avoid asking students to perform tasks that are beyond their current cognitive capabilities and use teaching methods that actively involve students and present challenges.